I'm going to move right into our program. And we have Pinellas County School Board person, Peggy O'Shea. Peggy has been involved in Pinellas County schools for many, many years, and I'm going to let her tell you what she's up to and what's going on.
Well, thank you. When I first got involved in the Republican Party in Pinellas, I didn't need to wear glasses, but I do now. I'm Peggy O'Shea. This is my, well, the end of my seventh year on the school board, I guess. I was elected in 2006, and we run on 4-year terms, so I'm in my second term. And lived here in Pinellas County. I was just thinking about it the other day. Almost 30 years now. Our kids are turning 31 next month. But more importantly than that, they grew up in the schools here and lived here since they were a year old, and graduated from the high schools here in Pinellas and have gone on to be successful. And I'm very proud of them. But more proud of the fact that on December 1st, we're going to have our first grandchild. And it's a girl. So it'll be fun. So we're looking forward to that. But public education today, makes a lot of headlines. I think one of the roles that we share most is keeping the St. Pete Times in headlines. And we've taken that role seriously. Also, before I forget, on the back of the table, I put some brochures, general information on the school district, and this really was set out for this previous school year and the one that was starting Monday. And the new one will come out in October when we have the new statistics. But it's kind of a fun facts brochure. Brochure tells you what's going on in the schools, some statistics and things. And also back there is another brochure, which I'll talk to you in a minute. But it talks about some of the special choice programs we have, which include all these career academies and technical education. And they're all programs for parental choice that we have within our schools that every parent can take advantage of if they choose to. And so I put a few of them back there too. And of course it's all on the website if you're tech savvy. Gail is tech savvy now. It took a while. That took a while. But she's right up there. I'm going to hit with some of the controversies that we're dealing with right now. Let's talk about the Common Core. Common Core state standards, as you know. They're voluntary, but they were adopted by the Florida legislature. This isn't something the school board set out on or had a say in. It's not required by the federal government, but it was an option for states, and Florida chose to adopt the Common Core state standards, so it is law, and we will have to follow that law unless it gets changed. They are national standards. They're not a curriculum. We can still devise the curriculum locally. Next, starting Monday when school opens, our kindergarten through second graders will be instructed in the Common Core, and the following year it will be implemented throughout the district. That's what Florida has said we will do. There are pros and cons to anything new. And I think there's a lot of questions, there's not a lot of answers all the time, and I don't think all the questions are even out there yet on this one. But some of the comments we've heard are that state tests have said for a long time that our kids are all doing well, but yet when they get out in the real world, they're struggling. There's too much remediation required in our colleges and in career preparation, so maybe our tests aren't testing the right thing, who knows? But there is a disconnect there. The Common Core says it's going to address some of that. Instead of just judging us on how many kids graduate from high school, they want to know how many kids are ready for college or career when they come out of high school. And that's what they're aiming to assess the students on. Real world skills, not just memorizing facts. I'm sure they'll still have to memorize facts and multiplication tables, we all did. But it'll be somewhat different approach. We haven't seen the assessment yet that they're going to use though. So that's controversial until we have the facts and know what they're going to do with it. But right now it will be moving forward in Florida unless the change is made by the legislature. People say we don't have a national curriculum, we shouldn't have one, and I agree. I'm a big proponent of local control, both for schools and for all of our local governments. I think the more things you bring down to the local level, the more input the community and the citizens have, and the better result we get. And I strongly believe that. I think this could work in theory, because these standards are very basic. They're reading, literature, science, and math. It's the basics that they're going to build these standards on. And today, we live in a world where people move around a lot. And so maybe some form of standardization isn't so bad. I don't want to see the control being sent up to the state and federal level though. I think schools in particular need to be at the local level. So we need to look at these standards and then write the curriculum based on what's needed here in Pinellas County and work through it that way. College and career readiness component of it, that is good. And that's something that really aligns with what Gail mentioned that we've been doing here in Pinellas for many years, and that's our career education. We've been a leader in providing students with options and choice plans for career education here in Pinellas. We have career academies in every high school, several, more than one in most high schools. And they can choose, before they start ninth grade, to enter one of these academies. Not only is it a 4-year program of study in that specific field, but they also get all the requirements they need to go to college or go to a technical school or wherever they might go when they leave high school. Because we know an 8th grader making this decision before they start high school doesn't know what they're going to do with the rest of their world. We're talking middle school and making these decisions. So things are going to change in their life. But the point is, we want them ready for whatever they choose later on. And so some of our career academies have industry-based certification, which is a big step up, where they can come out of one of our construction trades program, for example, where they've already done some interning with cars, with, you know what, this is, it's a loose wire, is what it is. I think so, but you can probably hear me anyway. You know, so they have this industry-based certification, so that now they've got a skill level higher than a normal high school graduate would ever have. So if that's a field they choose to go into, or they choose to go to one of our technical education centers, or a vocational school, or college, they can expand upon that knowledge going that route. So it enhances their ability to get a good job. It enhances their ability to get a better paycheck, which we all need our kids to have. And it also gives them a sense of self-worth and an interest that they want to build on and go after. And we find their grades overall do better when they're in a program like that because they get engaged in it. They're excited. They really want to do it. And so all their grades tend to do better. So that aligns somewhat with the Common Core is saying. Now, like I say, there's still a lot of questions out there and not a lot of answers. So we'll see how this goes as we move along. But we're going to do the best to focus on what the kids here need. And when we design these career academies, it's not just based on, oh, hey, that sounds great, let's have a culinary program. It's saying what jobs are going to be here over the next 20, 30 years that students in school today will have an opportunity to go to, and that make a better than average wage. You know, we don't want them on, you know, the food stamp line. We want them to be able to produce and support a family and have a successful life. And so we're matching the jobs with the wages and the programs and certifications where they exist, and trying to pull all that together into these programs. It's also a chance, if this works and we make them more college ready, to reduce the amount of remediation that colleges do. 4-year colleges don't do too much. A lot of our community colleges can spend 30% of their budget on remediation, and that's ridiculous. We need to get it done while they're in school and bring them up at a higher level. The rigor is higher with Common Core standards. They're raising the rigor, so they should be more ready, and we're hoping that's going to happen. But we are going to, we have to do it. It's the law. The board's going to have to follow it. We will do it, and we'll get our kids ready and make them successful. The controversy stands around the local control issues and the assessment that will come, that the kids will have to take. And we haven't really seen the assessment yet. They're saying that the questions on the testing will be more real-life type questions where they have to solve problems, not just repeat something that they memorized. In theory, that sounds good, but again, you know, it's yet to be seen. So the controversy will continue for a while, and I can argue both sides of it, but like I say, as a school board member, we are obligated to follow it at this point in time. One of the things we did recently was adopt our proposed budget for the coming year. We're on a July 1 fiscal year. And we did get some additional funding this year, about $32 million to Pinellas. However, about $30 million of that was earmarked for the teacher raises that the governor offered, the $2,500, and for the increase in the contribution that the employer has to make to the Florida retirement system. So even though there is an increase in funding, and that's good for our teachers, it's not really much of an increase really to the district as a whole. But it is good for the teachers because we have given very little in the form of raises over the past 6 years. We gave about 1.5% as well. Okay. Those who are not teachers, we will try and cover them with a small raise as well. But that's being negotiated now, so I can't get into the details of that. What else have we been doing? Our budget is interesting. You know, it sounds very high. And it is a $1.2 billion budget, most of which is our operating fund. And 84% of our operating fund is salaries and benefits. So when you take all that out, there's not a whole lot left to play with. You're going to love this one. This year, there's a surcharge in there for the Affordable Care Act and other costs to us. I won't get into that right now. That's a topic for another day. We have made huge increases over the last few years in how we spend our money, directing it to the classroom. We've raised the percentage of money that goes direct, they call it direct instruction in our budget. And we're at about 64% of our budget is direct instruction. It used to be about 63. We keep bringing it up, 66, I think, this year. So we're bringing it up all the time with the smaller amount going into administrative and supporting costs to run the district. At that same time, the state has flipped over and they're requiring the local taxpayer to pay a higher percentage of the education budget than they used to. It used to be that the state paid about 58% of the total budget and our local taxes funded the rest. Now it's almost reversed. However, the good news is, as a school board, we have lowered our millage rate for the last 5 years. So we've not done it on the backs of the taxpayer. We've also cut over $160 million out of our operating budget over the last 5 years. So we've been prudent. We've tried to bring all kinds of efficiencies into place. We are doing it constantly, and we will continue to look at those things. Even if money is blowing all over, you still need to be efficient and do the best you can with the money you have. Some of the reasons that our revenue has changed is we have less students in our schools. You know, we get paid per student from the state. We have 102,000 students. Our high was about 114, but Pinellas has stopped growing. It didn't reach the goals they thought population-wise for the entire county at the last census. It was below what they thought it would be. And so there's less students as well. The redevelopment, when things were booming, you started to see a lot of, particularly mobile home parks, things like that, being torn down and replaced with condominiums and high-rise, and there's not very many students that move into those. Those are mostly retired or young couples. So, the number of places where young children and families can live in Pinellas today has declined. And we're not growing anymore. We are built out. There's no land left in Pinellas, except a few parcels we own. And we just sold a couple of them. But we've seen the population level now. The last year or so, it's stayed about the same. So this is probably where it's going to stay. It ripples up and down. You'd be surprised. Birth rates change. Who knows why? Over the years, and then you see that ripple through each grade level, and then it goes down again. So we deal with that. We try to project as close as we can, because one of the things that we have had to fund a lot, most of which out of our own operating budget, is the class size amendment that went into play a few years ago. We have less students in each classroom. Therefore, to serve the same number of students, you need more classrooms and more teachers. And a year and a half ago, we did a study of what's this really cost, because the constitutional amendment said the state would pay for this. Well, they gave us about $75 million towards additional classrooms that had to be built, but it cost us $90 million to build them. So we paid the difference. But the big cost was, now you have all these new classrooms, you have to put a new teacher in each one, and you saw how expensive that can be with the salary and benefits. That cost over $250 million out of our operating budget over the last 5-6 years since that's been rolled in, and it was transitioned in over time. That came out of our budget. And you see, we made cuts of over 160 to 165 million. Without class size amendment, those cuts wouldn't have been made, or at least not in the way they were made. So it shows you that a lot of the things that we have to do are things that other people make us do. By the way, Pinellas County did not vote in favor of the class size amendment, but it went through statewide. Just so you know. Our amount that we get per student has gone down over the last couple of years too. It's leveled out a little now, and we're fine. There's some things in our budget I'm very proud of, though. In spite of all the reductions in budget and all this other stuff, we've lowered the millage rates. We have a study I wanted to show you. I'm not going to read it all. It's obviously voluminous. Called the Yellow Brick Road, with our budget people put together. And each year they update it. And they took the 13 districts most like Pinellas, the large districts in Florida, and they ranked them on how they spend their money. And we look through and see where we rank in every category. We rank fourth in the highest 20% going into direct instruction out of these 13, which is money into the classroom, not being spent on administrative costs. Therefore, we're one of the bottom, fourth from the bottom in administrative costs. We rank 11th, in other words, low, in student transportation costs. Everyone tells you you're spending too much on busing. Well, guess what? We're one of the lowest. In spite of the fact that our diesel costs have skyrocketed over the last few years, and they're up again. But we bid it out, get quantity discounts and all that, and do the best we can with it. And we rank number 2 in paying salaries and benefits. We're huge in benefits. We pay a good portion of their health insurance, and that's a killer. We pay over $115 million a year in premium on health insurance. But we are the largest employer in Pinellas County, too. And we're a huge factor when it comes to the economy of the county. We have a strategic plan that we do. And the new superintendent came in, so we revised it under him. And we have goals that we've set. And we also worked on the plan in conjunction with the budget, because there's no sense creating a goal that you can't fund and carry out. So we have goals, a couple of them, and then underneath them, the action plans and how we're going to carry out these goals. And we use data to measure whether or not we're getting there. It's very data-driven. There's a lot of quality management tools used. And so we're working along there, looking how we're doing. It's the first big goal is to increase student achievement at every school. Ensure the curriculum and the assessments are designed and delivered with a focus of continuous improvement to student engagement and their academic performance. We want every child, no matter where they are right now, they've got to improve. We want effective and efficient operations. We want to use our resources effectively to get the most out of them. One of the things we're doing a lot of is partnering now. We're leveraging resources with other groups in the county, with Juvenile Welfare Board, with St. Petersburg College, with the Early Learning Coalition, folks like that who are coming together and saying, we have a common interest in students. Let's work together. We all have a certain amount of resources, certain expertise. Let's pull it all together, not each doing it separately and wondering, why it's costing so much. So we're doing a lot of that. So anyway, those are the goals. Another big goal today is technology. All of our testing today, whether it's FCAT or whether it becomes Common Core, is done on computers. So you have to have computers, but more importantly, you have to have bandwidth, which is a word nobody knew a few years ago, right? We ran into Florida, the state of Florida. This is kind of funny. It's one of those things you kind of laugh about. They say, oh, we're going to do this. There's a reading assessment called FAIR. First time they did it, we're going to do it online. Everybody's going to be online in the state at the same time. Every student will go, yeah. It crashed. Of course, so we went, But it is a growing need, and it's something we have to do. Kids today grow up with it. They don't know how to live without their hands on a computer or a tablet or a phone or whatever it is they're using. They're very savvy. You'd be amazed what the kids can do with those. But the point is using it as a tool. Technology in itself is not a discipline. It's how do you use that and embed it in the job you're doing or whatever. Take your car in today to a mechanic. They plug it in, it's all kinds of stuff, and diagnostics are done now. Everything is computer chips. I had the air conditioner guy out the other day, so what you blew this circuit blew out, whatever. It's all technology today. So we're working on that gradually, getting proper technology at the lowest cost in front of the kids, and it has to be reliable for this testing. It's got to be something that can handle the testing. We're working with the county and with Bright House on our bandwidth issues. Just a couple of years ago, when we extended the day at one of our high schools that was struggling, and we kept the kids there and worked with them, a lot of it was done online. Well, guess what? Not enough bandwidth to run all these computers. So we borrowed from the county, who had bandwidth they weren't using, and through Bright House and the city of St. Pete, we were able to make that connection. So we worked together again and partner with everybody to get it done. Legislative issues for the school district. We started 2 years ago, bringing back our legislative breakfast, and we bring our delegation in. But we changed it around and said, instead of just our legislative delegation, let's bring in all the people that partner and work with this school system. And we had a list this long. And they all came. We held a breakfast that our culinary students at P-Tech provided. We paid for it, but they provided. We charged everybody $5 because we can't give legislators any gifts, so it's great. So we charged them for the breakfast. We had to charge them more, but they wouldn't let us. So we narrowed it down to just a couple little policy issues that we wanted them to consider as they go to Tallahassee this year. And we gave them some data on the back. And this worked well, and also have found out that all these same issues were supported by many other groups in the state. And we gave them the rationale behind it. You know, when you make a decision up there, talk to us ahead of time and say, what is this going to look like when it hits the classroom? Because many well-intentioned ideas don't work out when they implement them locally. So we want to work through that and not waste a lot of time and money on things that aren't going to happen or aren't going to happen and provide an advantage for the student. We talk about funding every year. You know, it's an issue. We have to work with it. We work within our budget. We've always had a balanced budget. But we don't want things to, you know, we'd like to be able to plan ahead on our budget a little, you know, not just a year at a time. It'd be nice if we could roll out a 3 to 5 year plan, but you can't. You know, this political climate changes, things change, the economy changes. So we're trying to work with that on, you know, some of those things. Some of the policy issues are local control. You know, we ask that they support the constitutional office of the school board members and let them be the deciding factor and let you come after us when you don't like what we do, and that's fine. You can get us at the voting booth, and I hope you do, because we need to be held accountable, but not when our hands are tied by Tallahassee. So we're just asking for more local authority and final decision-making on some of the things that go on in our school district. And those are a couple of things. Anyway, so we've done that, and we've had some success in working with the legislature. They've been listening more. We had a great year up there this year. We went up once, but we talked with them mostly in the district. They were very open to hearing what we had to do. They understand, and we understand, that school districts today are a big part of the economic development of this county and of the state. We're preparing students for the future. We're preparing students to be productive citizens, and that's what we want. We need to work together to get that done. So they were very open to that. They understand it, and it helps them try and encourage employers to come in here, to open up businesses and hire people here in Pinellas County, because we will have a skilled workforce for them and good schools for their kids to attend. Some of the other highlights, the expanding career education options that we've talked about. We just voted on a few more Tuesday's meeting. Yesterday, it was only yesterday. We're adding a few more, and we're trying to tie them now into the middle schools and say, okay, if we have, for example, a technology program in a high school that's very good, teaching kids engineering and technology, why not start it in middle school? These kids need something to do. Our middle schoolers, they got a lot of brains in their head and they're not always using them. So let's give them something to do. And it will help lead them into those high school programs and get them interested in it. And we're trying to develop feeder patterns, so we'll put it in a middle school that ends up in that high school, so that, you know, we don't have to move them all over, and they'll be more apt to take advantage of it if they don't have to travel to do it. So we just added 4 new middle school programs at our board meeting yesterday, which will go into effect a year from now. And so in January, parents can start applying for these programs, so it'll be ready by January. We had a great summer. It was called the Summer Bridge. It was summer school, but it was beyond that. Superintendent developed this program and said, the kids who are struggling, looked at the FCAT results and said, FCAT ranks a child 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 scored. 1 in math and 1 in reading. And if they get a 1 or 2, that's not good enough. 3 is passing, 4 and 5 are excelling. If you got a 1 or a 2, that parent got a phone call saying, you really need to sign your child up for this. It won't cost you anything, just get them there. We didn't transport them. Get your child there. They'll have 6 weeks of summer instruction, half a day. We will work with them. We will try and bridge that gap and get him up where he should be at his grade level. And we did that with money. It wasn't out of our regular operating fund. We used Title I money, which is federal monies that come into schools that have very low income students. And Pinellas' demographics have changed. We have far more students and families living below the poverty line, as set by the federal government. It's almost 50% of the students throughout Pinellas County today qualify for that. It's the free and reduced lunch rate you hear about. It's never been that high before. So we're dealing with a changing demographic here too. So we had over 9,000 students show up at the summer programs from kindergarten through high school. And we're hoping to see the results as they get back into school next week. We're also putting an extended day, 90 minutes more, in some of our very struggling schools. A couple here in St. Pete will have it. And although it has to be voluntary, we're saying to the parents, your child really needs this. You know, and they will stay extra. We will have teachers there to work with them and try and bring them along and get them where they need to be academically. Another project that's opening in October is an early childhood program. I talk about partnering. This is a huge partnership with Pinellas County Schools, the Juvenile Welfare Board, the Early Learning Coalition, St. Pete College, and others, the Department of Health. We're bringing in 1 to 4-year-olds. We have a section of our P-Tech South on 34th Street across from Gibbs High School, putting them in there to see if we can get them ready for kindergarten, because we're finding out that there's too many kids, like 27% are not ready for kindergarten when they show up as a 5-year-old. They're behind already. Well, we got to stop it. So we're targeting the most struggling families to get those kids in there. And because the funding comes through different sources, we're going to worry about all that, because we can't spend. We're a kindergarten through 12th grade operation, and that's all we can spend our money on. But the reason P-Tech is first is one of these career academies I talked about is at Gibbs High School, right across the street. They can walk over the bridge to P-Tech. And it is training students to be childhood development specialists. And there is a certification for that. And they will work with the students over there as part of their learning training. So it'll be a win-win, we hope, for both. So that's new. Pinellas County put out a study showing where the lowest income areas in this county are. And the areas haven't changed, but the number of people living in those areas and the economic level of them has grown immensely. And so one of them is South St. Pete, so that's where we're putting the first one. And as we can find funding for this, we will try and open a couple others throughout the county. So we're doing the partnering. Some good news, our advanced placement classes and students are doing fabulous. We have more and more students, this is high school, who take advanced placement classes. And then it's a national exam that they take, and more are passing the exam, not just taking the class. So that's very good. It's a very high level of learning that they're embarking on. We have a lot of kids in our dual enrollment with St. Pete College. And that's been a tremendous help to students who are ready to start college before they finish high school. They can take just a course or two. Some of them just take a few courses. The good news to them is they don't have to pay tuition. They now have some college credits they earn for free when they want to go on. And then we have some of those programs where they actually end up with an AA, an associate's degree, by the time they finish high school. They get a high school diploma and an AA degree. That's a little more intensive. They go their junior and senior year over to St. Pete College and finish those 2 years there. And have to work hard, but working in the college is great. They want to see this done because they're getting a student who's more ready for college, who's more motivated. They're loving it. We like it because it engages these students that want to start. And for some of them, they can't afford college any other way. So now they could come out with up to 2 years of college by the time they finish high school. So that's a great program. Those are some of the things that are going on right now, the new stuff in the schools. It's exciting. Public education takes a lot of heat, but that's okay. We're up to it. And we're going to just keep working and we're doing what's best for the kids. We have a philosophy when we do our decision making. Is this what's best for kids? That's what it comes down to. It's not, is it best for me or my friends, or it's what works best for kids, and that's how we make our decisions. So we'll take some questions. I will take a little disclaimer here, though. Florida sunshine laws are in effect, as you know, and we are elected officials, and anytime you have more than one of us here present from the school board, we can't talk about anything that might possibly come before us for a vote, which is a lot of things. But I'll try and read that out if the question goes that way. You can talk to us privately for our opinion on things anytime, but like this, unless it's at a notice meeting, you can't. Yes.
Peggy, last night in this very room at your neighborhood association meeting, Wingate News stood right where you're standing and told us about how much of a problem it was for juveniles being arrested in Pinellas County, 8,000 a year, he said. Of course, Wingate's a Democrat. So give us the benefit of the Republican side of you, the Republican point of view, and also from the school board. Are these kids being arrested for petty stuff that they shouldn't be arrested for? What are they doing? Because he says they rush somebody or push somebody and they go to jail. That doesn't make sense, but it could be true. And I'd like to know.
Let me start with one thing. Zero tolerance is something you hear about. We expel a student for that, and that includes any kind of weapons, assault, fighting, drugs. You're gone. They come before an expulsion hearing. Say part is rarely do they or their parents show up for the expulsion hearing. But it's based on the facts of the case, and investigation is done, and they're expelled from the regular schools. They can continue their education through a virtual school or teleschool, as we call it. So, because we don't want them to stop their education, otherwise they end up out on the streets doing something stupid. So we're better providing education in some way, but not in our regular school. They don't no longer have earned the right to be there. Smaller incidents that could have happened, and most of those arrests are not in the schools. There's very few arrests in the schools. They're usually in the neighborhoods somewhere, but when the cops are looking for a kid, they know where to find him. They wait till the next day and find him in the school because they know what school he goes to. So they come into school, grab him, and arrest him. So we get the publicity that, oh, there's an arrest at, XYZ school. Well, yeah, there is, but it wasn't an incident that occurred at school. Very few of them are occurring in the school. Now, we suspend kids for certain things, too. Defiance, over and over again. And they're counseled, they're trying to say, hey, you understand you can't behave like this. And we're strict on the behavior, You break the rules, you pay the consequences. So I don't know if his 8,000 number is correct. It sounds high. I will say some of the zero tolerance offenses, if they occur, if a child brings a weapon to school or drugs, many times they are arrested for that, most of the time, and they go to the juvenile detention center, and it's dealt, the state attorney deals with that. It's, besides us expelling them, the legal consequences are not in our hands at that point. So his numbers, probably come from JDC or from Bernie McCabe's office or somewhere as to how many arrests there are. That sounds high, but I can't say if it's right or not. On occasion, we have had to have kids arrested at our school for something they did at school. Like I say, a drug arrest or something. We have the drug dog. I met him the other day. His name's T-Rex. He's such a sweetheart. He goes around and just, they see him coming and like, ooh. So, we do a lot to try and prevent it. We tell them, you're not going to be here. For a while, we had a rash of brass knuckles. It turns out you can buy them in the dollar store. Who knew? That's a weapon under Florida law, and they will be expelled if they bring brass knuckles. Never thought about getting brass knuckles at a dollar store, but evidently you can. So, Wingate's numbers, I don't know that they're right. I can't say they are or they aren't. And who is he talking about? Is he considering kids to be those still in school or just out of school, teenagers, beyond that? Yeah. There are a lot of arrests, some of them rightful arrests. And that's sometimes, you can do that to a kid and change his life at that point, but on the other hand, you can't allow that child to interfere with the education of other kids in that school, and you can't allow them to cause a danger or a safety factor for the kids in that school, and we don't tolerate that. So if they have to be arrested, they will be. You hate to do it, but it's what happens. We have school resource officers in every high school and middle school, and they're there to help keep the peace, but also to solve problems for the kids. And sometimes the kids just go and talk to them about, I heard that this kid might be doing something, and they learn a lot. St. Pete has always told us they love having school resource officers in the schools since they find out a lot of stuff going on in neighborhoods that the kids will tell the school resource officers, that they won't just go find another cop on the street and tell. So, today in this world, it's unfortunate that that's the way it is. I know when we were in school, we never had cops in the school. We never misbehaved this bad, or we'd have been, our parents would have killed us. It didn't matter. But it is, there are arrests, unfortunately. And I would guess a lot of them are petty things, in the community. Because you see it in the paper. We see the crime statistics in the paper and what they're for. Usually St. Pete Times runs that. You can see. It'll show you where the address and what it was. I won't say who did it, but you can tell the kind of things that are arrests are being made for. And they're mostly small thefts, car issues. Breaking into a car, breaking into a home or a garage or something like that. And there's drug issues with kids. And that's at every high school. It's not just in our poor neighborhoods or whatever. Drugs are everywhere today. I keep telling this one neighbor I had a couple of years ago, oh, well, we don't have that dog. Our kids don't have drugs up here. I said, yeah, they do. They just don't have to go rob the store first to buy them. Because how much money can your kids lay their hand on at any time? I said, I bet your kids could find $100 cash if they had it. She said, oh, yeah, they have that much money. Yes, it's safe. So, it's the times we're living in. And unfortunately, I think we've become too desensitized to a lot of things. And we allow things, the language we hear, and some of the other stuff going on. The kids do. You look at TV and you see it and hear it. And we need to bring that back. We need to turn it around. At Wengate's, he has good concerns. He cares about the kids, but I'm not so sure that those numbers, they're certainly not arrests in schools by any means. There's very few of those. Yes.
I have a question about Common Core. And
Okay, if you gotta ask a question, you gotta stand up, please.
all right, I got a question about Common Core, and it's a true question because I'm still haven't analyzed it in detail. I have two concerns. One, I've heard that in Common Core there's a lot of data being collected on our kids and sent into central agencies for analysis. You know, psychiatric profiles, things that will be used in behavioral experiments and things like that. So I want you to tell me whether or not the school board will reject doing that if it's true. And secondly, I understand also that kids are being evaluated for career tracks, and their choices may be limited in their careers under this regimen, that they won't maybe have the same opportunities because they'll be narrowed too early. So if you could tell me if any of those things are true.
Okay, on the first one, it's not true. We do not collect that kind of data on kids, and it's not sent anywhere. Maybe NSA, I don't know. My son-in-law works at NSA, he's an Air Force officer, and I joke about it all the time. I say, I don't have to back up my computer anymore, you can just get it for me. But no, there is no psychological data or anything collected and sent in anywhere. Obviously, a child's own record, if there's something pertaining to school, is in there, but it's not sent anywhere, and it's not, and there's very little psychological data in there at all. So no, that's not true, and I can't imagine we would allow it if it ever was asked for.
What about limiting or putting kids on a career track early
Okay.
so they won't have the same opportunities later?
Well, again, it's a choice, and it's parental choice, and parents have asked for this, and we're trying to honor parental choice. Parents like to see their kids engaged in a specific interest. They don't have to do this. They can still go through the standard school, you know, the standard courses and elective courses that they can take throughout middle school and high school. They don't have to make this choice. This is an option, a choice option for parents and the student to come together and make if they want to. So it's not limiting, and even if they pick any one of these academies, they will still have all the academic coursework to go to college or go anywhere else later on. We don't cut back on that. Now, the legislature did pass something new this year, which will go into effect now. Remember we used to have, they had it in Pinellas years ago too, where you kind of geared your course selection, and it was the high school issue, based on where you think you're going to go after high school. If you were going to college, you took more rigorous, you know, calculus and trig and all these other physics and stuff. Does every child need those courses? Maybe not. You know, what they're doing now is they've got a couple of different pathways, they're calling them, but they're not restricted. By all means, you can still take almost any course you want in high school or in middle school even. It's not restricted. It's just saying if you want to choose one of these and you think you're going to want to go to college, then we suggest you take these courses because that will enhance your ability to go to college, not just for admissions to college, but scholarship money is important going to college today. So you got to have good grades and good SAT and ACT scores. And our kids are doing better and better each year on those tests too, which are standardized national tests. So these don't limit a child's choice because we know before starting high school and you're making this choice, you don't know. You're 13, 14 years old. You don't know what you're going to do with the rest of your life. You know, some do. There are some kids that really think they know. They're going to be professional baseball players, by the way. Every one of them. I said, well, then you really need math, I told one. He looked at me and says, no. I said, yeah. How are you going to keep track of all the money you're going to make? No, I'll have an accountant. I said, but you'll have to know if he's not cheating you. So he, you know, we're trying to do this to provide choice, not to limit in any way. And they will still have all the academic requirements to go anywhere they want afterwards, as well as this vocational track if they choose it. Yes?
Could you tell me if Pinellas County schools are going to drop cursive writing, teaching children how to write cursive?
No?
I have a friend that was just in Washington, D.C. on a vacation, and she was touring a lot of the different sites and ran into a lot of youngsters who were unable to read the cursive writing on documents.
There was an article somewhere about that. Yeah, it wasn't here, and I read that
she said
too.
there's now propagating just teaching them how to print.
No, I mean, they learn to print, and then around third, fourth grade, they start doing some cursive, probably don't do enough of it, but they are doing, and we have no intention of dropping that. There's been no talk locally on it. Yeah.
Yeah, just today, President Obama, I've heard on the news on the way out here, that he was talking about.
He's on vacation.
Well, he was talking about the fact that he's going to try to pass a new fee, which I didn't know he had the authority to do that, on our cell phones, and that money, and they're saying it's only going to be $4 or $5 a person per year, will go to pay for internet connections for their high schools across, all schools across the country. And so I just caution to say that I don't think we know what Common Core is about yet, and that the data mining that Dr. Hale was referring to, and I'm sure you've heard, has got to do with this onslaught of all this high tech, which is why, what's his name, Microsoft.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Yeah, he's very interested, of course, in bringing that technology, and then Obama getting the money to bring in the bandwidth, and our children, I think, we don't know where this road is taking us.
Right.
So I just wanted to make that, and to say also that with this pre-K program, because I attended a few of the county commission meetings, the county school board meetings, and I have to tell you that as a conservative, I was concerned to hear about the creep into pre-K, that the kids are not ready for kindergarten, and I don't know at what point do we stop? Because, and also one of the things that I heard at that conversation that night was the fact that these people would be certified, which I assume means that these are more union jobs that would be involved in the pre-K, into getting to the pre-K kids. So it's really an expansion of government. It's a lot more possible union jobs. When we're talking about $1 billion plus budget, and 80% of it, I think he said, is already salaries, and we have all of the problems and the kids, their performance. And so we'd like to see more money go into the kids and less money go into what may be not salary so much, but benefits and legacy benefits and pensions and all of this. And certainly I'm concerned about 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. You're getting into child care now. And so I just throw that out.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of those issues. The pre-K, the early childhood program we're starting, will have different things they're trying to accomplish in each age group. The funding sources are not ours. These kids are getting, the money's out there anyway. School readiness dollars are state funds that came in for working poor parents. And I remember that, working poor. They have to be working or getting job training to be eligible for school readiness dollars to care for their kids. VPK, which is voluntary pre-kindergarten, is for every 4-year-old in the state of Florida is entitled to a half-day program. So the 4-year-olds will use VPK, we'll just have VPK in this center. So it's, some of these programs are in existence, but we are using certified teachers. Now, this is not a union state, Florida, by the way. Less than half of our teachers belong to the teachers union. So, it's not a union issue in that sense. But we're using certified teachers, not just daycare workers. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with daycare workers. They provide a safe place for your child to be. But we're trying to put the learning component in. A 1-year-old, as he's learning to speak, is he speaking the right English? Is he pronouncing things? Is he learning words? Is he, that kind of thing.
That's what I'm talking about. I don't think that's a school board issue.
It's not a school board issue. It's these other agencies that are doing it.
Facilitating it. I'm just saying as far as your positions, supporting that or kind of pushing that back.
Well, it's something to try and see if it works, because it's being done differently than the way it is out there now. People can go to pre-K, and maybe one at this church, a lot of them have daycare centers and things. Yeah. They get that same money that we're talking about. They're state funded when they do that. Those kids are all funded by the school readiness dollars, the VPK dollars, or whatever. So it's the same funding. We're just saying, can we do a better job? I don't know, and we'll try it, and if we don't, we won't be doing it again. It's not something, but it's all the same money that's already being sent to those kids. The one good thing, I think, is in Florida, several years back, the welfare work system said, for these funding, you have to be working. Now, you may not be earning enough to provide all the child care dollars you need, so it subsidizes. They pay a portion though. It's not a total free program, no matter how little they're making, because there's got to be some incentive there. So it was changed many years ago to be welfare to work. They have to be getting job training through working at Pinellas or somewhere like that, or be working to be eligible for some of this. So it's trying to bring the poor, give them a hand, getting these kids so that when they hit kindergarten, they're where they should be, because they're not coming through that way now. And we know where, the different neighborhoods that they're in, and we're trying to target those the neediest to get that done and bring those kids up, break that cycle. Let's not have another generation grow up who is not ready for school and isn't making school important and can't work with their kids. It's breaking that cycle. It may work, it may not. On the technology issue, I don't know that Obama's going to do that and give money to the schools. Even without Common Core, the technology requirements were there already for us on testing. The FCAT, Jeb Bush's whole program requires all the technology as well. So that's not going to go away with Common Core. FCAT is done online, any of the other assessments that are done today. If you want to take college boards today, you have to go into one of these centers, testing centers, and take them online. My daughter took a bar exam a couple of years ago. It was all online. They said, bring your laptops. That's how you get your exam. So, I mean, we can like it or not like it. We didn't grow up with computers, that way, but it's being required by other people. It's not just us, and it's not just Common Core doing it. So some of that, we're obligated to comply with right now.
I think local control, that's one thing.
If we could have the local control, we might do the testing differently and not do it all online,
The
Yeah.
gentleman in the back who's been
Yeah, follow through with Barb a little bit. Head Start has been a program in this country, I believe, since Lyndon Baines Johnson. Statistically, it's never worked. It doesn't work. It's been proven years and years and years. They'll also follow through with what Barb said. When you bring kids into the government school system, you will also have, as you saying, and I have a spouse in the school system who's been there many years. You will also be providing lunches and breakfasts soon. And then you will be providing union jobs for the cafeteria to be open at that center. So your reach is impeccable. It's tremendous. It's too large. And I'm sorry to say that to you because you're a well-meaning person. I'm sure you are. But it's too large. All of the people in this room, none of us had that reach when we grew up. And you know what? We grew up with 40 kids in a classroom. Okay? What we had at home were parents. What the kids don't have at home now are parents. So why don't you start funding the churches which provide families which make parents?
Because not every one of the families we need is in church.
I understand that, but do you understand where I'm going now? For you to create another program is not the right thing to do.
Okay. Like I say, this is a pilot program. We'll see if it works. If we get a result, we may not. But these kids are taking that funding anyway. That's not our funding and it's not new. And I agree that parents should step up. And we're doing everything. We pick up the phone and call the parents. I mean, you shouldn't have to. And I agree with you. So work with your neighbors and friends and get those parents involved. That's the key to a kid's success. And they don't have to come in and volunteer in a school. They don't have to just talk to your kid. Your kid comes home from school and say, hey, what'd you do in school today? And they'll say nothing. But what'd you do in school? Let me see your homework. What are you doing? Did you read something today? I mean, talk to them. Give them 20 minutes a day. It's so simple. And yet, we've tried. We talk to, and we reach out to the parents. They go knocking on doors of houses, our staff. Our teachers go out. How do you change that? Because that's a huge impact on kids. If we could turn that around, 90% of the problems will be solved. No, I agree with you on all that. But we're trying everything we can. If you think of some other way to get to those parents, let us know. We will try it.
I don't think that's the school board.
It should be, but you know what? No one else is doing it. And the kids are coming to us. And, I'm glad they're coming to school. That's a good thing. But, you don't want them showing up to school at 5 years old behind already. They don't, so talk about remediation. So we're remediating 5-year-olds, in essence. I know it's societal and it's not a good thing. And I agree with you that the parents should be taking the responsibility. Absolutely. And like I say, if you can figure out a way to do that, let us know.
Any more questions? Ray, did you have a question?
I did have one question, but I didn't want to hold up.
You can ask. A quick one.
I just want to change subject a little bit, and I want everybody here to know I spoke to Terry about it. I am a student at P-Tech, and a lot of folks don't realize that the adult programs that you have at P-Tech, it's not an extension of high school. I am in a class with a number of people in their 40s and 50s and 60s. There's no old goats 80 like me, but nonetheless, there's a bunch of us. And it's not only culinary, they have so many...
Construction trades, huge, all the different trades.
Very inexpensive. There is a tuition, but there's a Pell Grant available. And it took me 2 hours to get the first one. And this time around for next year, it probably took me 2 days, but normally it only takes a very short time. And I wanted to emphasize everybody what a great program it is out there.
The P-Techs, we have one in Clearwater, in the High Point area, one down on 34th Street across from Gibbs High School. And you're right, and we revitalized those programs and really tried to move them up. And yes, it's adult education. I mean, you get some kids who right after high school go there, but it's mostly older adults who either want to advance their training in their job or have had to switch careers. A lot of people at bus stops saying they need to get
I
some
noticed when I
skills.
started class,
Did you cook for us tonight?
I still go
Yeah.
over 34. I noticed when I started class, a lot of the folks didn't have any background in culinary, but I noticed they were unemployed. It was just at the end of the recession. And how many people, I'm not sure if you realize, how many people went to P-Tech so that they could train to do something else because they couldn't find any jobs in their own field.
We've had a lot of, and we've had some businesses come to P-Tech and say, we need, the energy industry came a few years ago and said, we need welders for the energy industry. So we put a program in. They got a grant, we put in a program, they're training welders that they need. Another one was Bright House Networks needs people to work on, cable's a huge thing now. I mean, all the technology and cable and relaying cables and whatever all they do. We have a program at PTech, sponsored by Bright House, to train people, because they need skilled workers and they couldn't get them. So PTech will do that, work with corporations and industries to help train the people that they need.
They even made room when they found out how old I was. They even made accommodation for more bathroom breaks.
We should put coin boxes back on make some money. But talk to us anytime. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like, because we need to hear it all. And if we don't have the answers, we'll get them for you. So call us anytime. School board 588-6300 goes right into the board office. Gail calls in. Yes.
Excuse me, I'm having trouble getting up this chair, so I remember I went to school when I was 5 years old. I fortunately had good parents, but from what I'm understanding you saying, you're expecting these kids to come in and know their ABCs and all the rest of it. And I don't see that that's going to happen. We unfortunately have an awful lot of people, and I don't mean just in St. Petersburg, but all around the country, that are very poor parents. And you can't begin, that's got to be fixed someplace else, I think. I'm glad that you are doing some tech work, because when I went to high school, we had college courses, and we had some secretarial
Vocational.
things, vocational. But we also had a group of courses that the boys usually took.
Yeah, they took industrial arts and shop classes. The girls took home ec.
I hope this thing works, but I'm not sure that it's going to, because I think anytime you try to standardize some of it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and we all have concerns about Common Core, let me tell you. It wasn't something we devised or said, yes, let's do this. It was we were told we will do it. And since it became law, we have to do it unless they change the law. And we keep talking to them. We did get them to delay it a year, but we haven't gotten them to do much else with it. So we'll see. There's more controversy arising with Common Core, so maybe it'll be enough in the next legislative session to make some other changes there. I think we would welcome that. I think, the theory, when you talk to these people, college and career readiness, that's good. You need to be ready when you leave high school, or school systems through high school are to prepare you for life. They're not just, it doesn't stop there. So you're going somewhere, you're going to get a job, you're going to, with the military, and that's another thing, the military won't take you today unless you have a high school diploma, no GEDs anymore. You have to have a clean criminal record, and you have to be physically fit. Yeah, they've raised the bar too, so, yeah, which is, I support our military wholeheartedly.
Stand up if you're going to ask a question.
I got fired from the
And this is the last question.
Sure.
the Obama mask.
And did I understand you correctly when you're saying that, is it Pinellas County Schools rank second in benefits? Is that correct?
Salaries and benefits
Salaries and
combined.
benefits.
Just in Florida.
And of those 13 districts in Florida that are similar, they're the large district, we're the 7th largest district in the state of Florida. Florida has a lot of large districts because they're countywide by statute. There's no little local districts. If you grew up somewhere else, you probably had, each town had their own school system. You know, you had a high school, maybe a junior high back then, and a couple elementaries, and that was your school system. Florida's not like that, unless you're in a very small county. We have a county in Florida that only has 2 schools in the whole county. So, it varies, but we're one of the larger ones. You know, with 102,000 students, Miami-Dade, of course, is the largest. And so they studied similarly located districts and large districts because that's a better comparison, you know, to us, what we have to do. So that's why they picked 13 like that. Neighboring districts are in it, you know, Pasco, Polk, Hillsborough, Sarasota, as well as the large districts in Florida. So it came up to 13 that all kind of had the same issues and size and things to deal with. So that's why we took that. But it helps us look and see where we're at financially. You know, are we overspending in one area and under in another? We're glad to see our transportation costs were one of the lowest. The people keep telling us we're spending too much on it, and we found out it's one of the lowest. Good to know, you know, maybe we can still make it even lower, but at least it's down there. You know, salaries and benefits are the highest. Florida still ranks low in teacher pay nationwide, but we, you know, do the best we can. That's what it is. Starting teachers are around 37,000 for starting teachers. And they go up, they max out probably maybe at 60 if they're lucky. They spend their whole life here. So that's the range the teachers are making. And since it's not a union state, there are 4 unions though that some of our employees belong to, the teachers union, the support services, which is clerical people. They have a smaller percentage in those unions. SEIU, which is our maintenance and bus drivers. And they've come to us with good suggestions on budget cuts. They've actually worked with us more than any of the others. And the PDA, Police Benevolent, which are our school resource officers. But again, it's collectively bargained, so they all get, if they get a 1% raise, they all get it. Nobody gets it, nobody gets it.